hard and she never know I love her to skin and bone, heart, bone, sticks and stones, just to let you validate your message to me. Oh, you know my beat is concrete. Just breathe, stay on my feet. You know my beat is concrete. Just breathe, stay on your feet.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Away Days coming thick and fast this week. And on the back of a fantastic show with Paul from Toon Review last night. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you check that out. But as you can see, I'm on my own tonight. Unfortunately, Mr. Avon, Chris Hall couldn't make it. So riding solo tonight. But hey, the Away Days still roll on, and we've got a fantastic guest that I'll bring in a second. But look, there's been a little bit of news. So we've had today Paul Dummett signing a 1-year extension to his contract. As some of you may know in the chat, those of you that watched the show last night, we were discussing our squad games with Paul from Team Review and Martin. And most people's opinions were that they wanted Paul Dummett out. And they were quite happy for him to go. So it'd be interesting to see your thoughts in the chat. What you think? Are you happy with the extension? Do you think it's the right, sensible move? Or do you think we needed to move on and freshen it up? I'm sure we'll cover that as the show goes on. But look, massive, massive game, as they all are now, on Sunday. Man City away at the Etihad. Man City going for the title. Newcastle going for a top 10 push after being rock bottom of the league in December. Let's wait and see. But as always, we want to get the opposition's view, and I'm delighted because we didn't get an Away Days last time we played Man City at St James's. I'm delighted to have Luke from the Feed the Goat podcast. So I'll bring him in now. How you doing, Luke?
I'm good, mate. How was yourself?
Not too bad.
I mean, I'm as good as you can be after our little predicament last night, shall we say?
You know what? I think we should address that huge elephant in the room and discuss that first. And you know what? Geordie Toon for Life has put a comment on, and I'll read it out. He's put, "Evening, lads. Welcome to your guest. Can I just say I was genuinely gutted for City players and fans. They were by far the better team in both matches. It just seems luck didn't go their way." And he's added to that and said, "I was looking forward to a City-Liverpool final. It could have been one of the best finals ever seen. Two fantastic teams who tried to entertain." Look, Luke, like I just want to get your thoughts. How are you and the rest of the Man City faithful feeling this morning and today in general?
I mean, unfortunately, I was up at like 5 o'clock this morning, so I had a lot of time to think about that game last night. Just deflated, really. I mean, if we were to have played bad and then got spanked like that, but it's the fact of 2 minutes of concentration gone, and you can get 2 goals when you've got world-class players like that. Obviously, you've got players like Benzema, Asensio was on the pitch, Rodrigo, Vinicius Jr. I mean, what can you say, really? Real Madrid are a different beast in the Champions League, and unfortunately, we had the displeasure, shall we say, of coming up against them. But, you've just got to give credit where it's due. Real Madrid were the better team towards the end, kind of kept it out. And, that's all I'm going to say about it, really. I'm sure Feed the Goal will go right into it at 9 o'clock tonight, but it's just a hard one to take. Obviously, we would have liked to have played Liverpool in the final, but let's hope Real Madrid can do us a favour, like you could have done us a favour last week. But we won't talk about that either. But you could be doing them a favour this week, and we'll certainly find out on Sunday.
Definitely, I don't think I could have put it any better. And look, I think it was unlucky. Real Madrid have that knack. They have that knack of finding a goal, even when they're not playing well. We saw it against Chelsea. Is that Chelsea looked like they were dominating, looked like they were comfortable, looked like there was only going to be one winner, and all of a sudden,
PSG as well.
PSG, exactly the same.
3 games in a row they've done it. It's
one
crazy.
moment where they just, as soon as they get a goal, it's like they come to life, and that's exactly what they did last night.
Yeah, and then Grealish had them 2 chances, an unbelievable save from Courtois. And just Ferland Mendy was the right person at the right place at the right time. Sadly, could have been talking about this very differently, but that's the beautiful game of football, and you've got to take the good times with the bad. I'm not the biggest fan of the Champions League. I've always said it. I think it's a luck of the draw in a sense, and I think if you win 10 games, you win the Champions League, let's say. But the Premier League, you've got to be the best team over 38 games in the most competitive league in the world. And you can kind of see the competitiveness that we've got in the league at the moment, such as yourselves kind of rising from the ashes. And I feel like you will probably win a Champions League before we do.
Oh,
with the money that you've got.
I tell you what, you would have got some smiles from those in the chat by saying that. But you certainly got it from me. And look, hey, I'll be honest with you.
They won't like me when they find out I live in Teesside, so...
Oh, I didn't even know that. So you live in Teesside then. So any affiliations to Middlesbrough in any way?
No, definitely not. My dad's a Man City fan, brought me up, but we've lived in Middlesbrough most of our lives. So unfortunately, I was at the Riverside as well when we lost 8-1 to go on a little tangent. But yeah, I mean, have no affiliation. Got very close friends who are Borough fans, but they could soon be in the Premier League if luck goes their way, but I hope that isn't the case because we'll never hear the end of it again because they'll go back down again in the season. So, yeah, you'll have a nice 6 points in your Tyne-Tees derby, let's say, if they come up.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And they, I don't think they can now. I'm not sure if they're...
I think both teams above them, so Luton and Sheffield United, have got to lose and they've got to beat Preston North End. So it's one of those. It's not in their hands, but it soon could be.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll see. We'll see how things pan out. But look, we'll segue away from the Champions League because I'm sure, Luke, you don't want to be talking about that all night. And there's a game, a big game coming on Sunday, Super Sunday, 4:30 kickoff. Just from your perspective, how do you feel this is going to affect mentally the players of being 2 minutes away effectively from, being in the final of the Champions League to then go into extra time, not then making the Champions League final? Do you think it's going to have a real knock-on effect to the players mentally going into this game? Or is Pep going to be kind of reprogramming them to say, right, we have to win this league now?
Yeah, I think Pep's been putting it perfectly across in his press conferences. Like, look, every game from now is a cup final, and I think we've had the mentality of cup finals. Yes, we kind of haven't done well in Champions League finals, obviously last season against Chelsea. But I mean, it's a case of you always look at how we do in the business end of the season. We kind of turn it on to a different level. We have the odd peak and trough here and there in mid-league. Like we've had the Crystal Palaces this season. We've had Southampton, Spurs. But I feel when there's 4 games kind of make or break, I think Pep kind of turns it on, and I don't have any worries. But obviously, there's always that kind of slip up in any team, really. Like we nearly seen it against Leeds. We thought we were having our Steven Gerrard moment for a second, but yeah. I mean, it's one of those. I think Pep's very good in regards to kind of getting them back on board after a day or two and kind of being like, yep, it's happened. This is what we've got next. And obviously, I've noticed it. I think Pep does learn from his mistakes. Like he's learned from Chelsea, not the Chelsea game in the Champions League final, not to overthink. He's now kind of learned, right, we need to start putting balls into the box like we did against Watford, asking questions of defenders. So he's always kind of adapting to what's happened the previous games. But I just think now kind of City know what to do in the Premier League. They know how to kind of get over the line. Whereas the Champions League, we still haven't done that. But once we do that, I feel like it could be ours to kind of run over. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those. I think the players know what they have to do. They know how to perform in the Premier League. And it's just a case of kind of, you've always seen it when we've lost a game. I feel sorry for you potentially because, you know, it's always potentially 5 or 6-0. So yeah, it's one of those. It's tough, but, you know, we've got the players and the mentality to kind of bounce back straight away. And it's a home game, so they'll want to definitely perform for the home crowd, definitely.
Definitely. And look, you don't have to remind us of our experiences going to the Etihad over the years. I've only ever been to the Etihad once, ever. And I was so excited to get into the Etihad. I think it was a 5:30 kickoff a number of years ago now. And I think you guys won 5-0 in that game. And I remember getting in there excited, buzzing for the game. Always have a little bit of hope whether we go home or away. There's always a chance that we could turn up and get a result. Vernon Anita concedes a penalty after 50 seconds. And you just think, like, never ever going to end well. And by half time, I think we were 3 or 4-0 down. We end up losing 5.
Yes.
Dreadful game. And to be fair, I made a pact to myself. I said, I'm not going back to the Etihad. Fantastic stadium and around the area.
Yeah.
You know, the training ground. I think the other stadium as well. I think the women play in the under 23s that they play in.
Yeah.
Fantastic facilities. Great to see. But I was adamant that I was never going back until we were in a position where we could actually go there and potentially challenge Man City and at least give them a game and not kind of roll over. And I'm really hoping that that's going to be the case on Sunday. That, you know, not saying we're going to win, but go in there with a little bit of confidence and thinking that we can kind of cause Man City their own problems and not just worrying about how many we're going to concede. Because you're absolutely right, Luke. In years gone by, we've been exactly that. You've always knew you were going to win at some point. It was just a case of when you were going to score and how.
Yeah, I mean, like I was kind of saying the other week on our podcast, the teams that we have to play now, like obviously yourselves, you're safe. There's nothing to play for. You can't push for Europe.
Yeah.
I don't think so mathematically anyway. That could play into our favour. Kind of obviously no teams are going to lie down and take it kind of an absolute drubbing, but it could play into that fact of, they won't have that intensity to kind of fight for everything. But you have in recent games from what I've seen. But I think it's more a case of all 4 teams kind of have nothing to play for. Obviously, West Ham, let's hope. Best of luck to them tonight in the Europa League. I hope they do get through, because then that's even better for us, because then they won't want to play that game. They'll want to play the Europa League final the next week. But Liverpool have the biggest one Saturday night. I don't like talking about them too much, but Spurs will be no easy task pushing for that top 4, and I think that plays into our favour too, especially that we play this fixture the day after. But like I said, we win all 4 games. We don't worry about them scout slot, and we've won the league. That's the way we've got to see it. Can't rely on others, as I've learned recently, to do us any favours. So yeah, it's definitely, yeah.
Look, I know you don't want to talk about the scout slot, but look, they are a formidable team, like yourselves. You're both absolutely formidable teams, 2 of the best in the world. There's no doubt. We've talked about it on so many shows recently about how good you guys are. But you know, in your mindset, you know, I think you're a point ahead in the league. You know, going into these last few fixtures, do you honestly think that there isn't going to be a slip up from yourselves and you're going to go on and win the title? You've done it before.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's the confidence that us City fans have. But if you've been following City for a while, the common phrase "typical City" comes out, especially like last night. Typical City. There's going to be one more bump in this road, I feel.
Yeah.
But which way it goes, who knows? But I think Pep has got the mentality. The players have got the mentality to win all 4, definitely. I mean, I can't see any issues with that. 2 at home, 2 away. But the only thing is kind of yeah, it's just not relying on other results with Liverpool. It's just trying to get the 4 wins. That's it, done. It's easier said than done, but yeah, we've done it before, so there's no doubt why we can't do it again. But yeah, I definitely feel that there is going to be a slip here or there potentially with one team, even if it's just going a goal down early on, and then we have to come back. But who knows whether it's in Newcastle or it's further down the line. But yeah, definitely going to be interesting till the end of the season.
Definitely. And Ian's just said on there, hopefully it's not too long till we get to a final. Ian, I just wish that we get to any final, just any final, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, it doesn't matter. You know, I'd even take the Conference League final if we were to get there in the next few years. Any final would be great for us to be in a position to win a trophy.
The Carabao Cup gets boring after a while, though. You know, coming from experience,
coming from serial winners, Man City,
yeah, 4 on the bounce.
I tell you what, if we win a Carabao Cup, there'd be parties on the streets because we haven't won a trophy, a major trophy, a domestic trophy for so long.
I do really like, obviously, living in Teesside, but I've got a few friends who are Newcastle fans, and there is kind of like a soft spot there for you. I think kind of seeing the prestige of the club back in the heyday and kind of now from where it went, it was absolutely drawn out by Mike Ashley. It is nice to see another team, obviously. Yous will get the rep that we had.
Yeah.
Yous will get, and yous have probably already had it, but, you know, just enjoy it. That's all I can say, because, you know, you'll look back in like 10 years' time and you'll realise that yous were where exactly we were, you know. We were relegated twice. We were in League Two on the brink of non-existency. And yeah, but just ride with it, man. You'll win something eventually soon, I hope. But as long as it's not the Premier League or the Champions League before us, you know, that's all good.
Luke, I can't make any promises on that going forward.
We've got more money than us, so, you know, we'll soon find out.
You definitely. But look, I just want to touch on that actually, because I wasn't going to bring it up, but you've just raised it just to the point with the type of stick that you get. Because of the type of way in which your ownership came about and where your owners are based, what is the type of the general stick that you get? Is it from opposition fans? You know, we seem to feel on social media that we get a lot of stick from the media. There's a lot of finger pointing with the likes of Miguel Delaney,
human rights issues and stuff.
And the human rights issues. Yeah. Is that something that you at Man City experienced something similar? And did you from the start moving forward?
Yeah, I think you've got to look at it in like, it's even in like any aspect of life. People don't like change. People don't like, you know, someone coming to kind of change the norm as such. And when something kind of is shifted to a different dynamic, people try and find any kind of negativity towards it. Like with yourselves, obviously Newcastle fans were like, yes, we're finally getting this back in. We're going to become a top club. And I do hope you do, because you were there back in the 90s at the inaugural Premier League stage and your Kevin Keegan era and stuff like that. Why shouldn't you be there? But obviously there's good people in this environment and there's bad people. Obviously, the bad people will try and exploit any situation. Just see that comment there.
I'll put that back on there. Jordan 2 for life. He's not afraid to put his comments out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for myself a lot of the time when you walk down the high street. But yeah, I mean, it's like anything. People will try and exploit it to the fact of, because it's not something that they're getting, they'll be like, yeah, human rights issues, you know, they behead their journalists when they don't agree with something. Just for one example, Khashoggi, for example, they're not in this, the kind of, you don't know if they're trying to create an agenda back home and kind of do something. But at the end of the day, the fans don't care about that. The fans just want their football team playing good football, investing in the area, kind of, you know, the things that this is doing will create jobs and prosperity in the area for a long time. Like you look at Manchester, kind of the area surrounding the Etihad has considerably improved, and that can only bring benefits to a club once you invest in it. And I mean, yeah, we get stick all the time saying like we've bought the Premier Leagues and, you know, we've ruined football, and you will get it eventually when you start to sign the bigger players. And you just got to take the rough with the smooth. At the end of the day, look what Man United were doing several years ago. They were kind of doing this, and Chelsea are the biggest example. They were the ones who kind of started all this off. So, you know, if you're just jumping on the bandwagon, then I don't see any harm in it because you're not kind of started it, and we can now see what Abramovich has done to the league, and he's no longer a part of it. So someone else has got to come in and do his job and spend money.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I don't think they'll be able to spend it the way in which he did, but I'm sure we'll get on to that as the show progresses. And look, everyone in the chat, there's a few questions already come in for Luke. Get your questions in, anything Man City related you want to ask Luke while he's on with us. Go ahead, stick it in the chat. I'll put it in the star comments, and we'll come back to it later on. But look, obviously, for me, you've got one of the sort of the greatest managers ever to manage the in the game in Pep Guardiola. How has he revamped your club? I mean, I've watched the documentary, the Man City documentary. It's a fantastic watch. He really does look like a top level manager. From in your perspective, do you think he can win the big one for you? And if he can't, how long do you think he's going to stay at Man City? What do you think that time span is going to look like?
I mean, we kind of look at it already. Like, he has won it before. People disregard this quite quickly. Yeah. It's not a case of he hasn't ever won the Champions League. Sorry, and you look at that Barcelona team. He won the six-tuple with them. That's no easy feat. Like, we talk about, United's team of the treble, which is no small feat. That's probably still one of the biggest achievements in English football history. But to win 6 titles in one season is, well, it's double the treble, so it's crazy. But, I mean, I do think he will get there. I think he learns from his mistakes, and it will kind of go on from there. The big thing is the transfers that are going to come in this summer. I feel that there'll be a lot of changes, and there'll be some changes that some City's fans don't want to see. However, they're needed. And I think there has already kind of been rumours circulating that he kind of has agreed a deal in principle till 2025. Okay. Whether that's because Klopp has signed that 2026 and he's thought, fuck it, let's go carry on and keep this rivalry going, shall we say, sorry. But, I mean, yeah, if he signs till 2025, I think it's all on the basis of Haaland having this agreement of, I will sign if Pep stays, which is kind of the rumour mill that's going round. But who knows? I mean, I'd like to see him stay and kind of complete the decade and be known as one of the most dominant managers in Premier League history. Like I said at the start, I'm more of a fan of the Premier League than the Champions League because it takes a lot more to win it. But yeah, he is, in my eyes, top 3 greatest managers of all time. There's several arguments who probably say he isn't. I mean, I was seeing things this morning saying that Pep Guardiola should be sacked. And I mean, I don't know what people smoke in them areas, but like, I don't promote drug use, but yeah, I mean, if you're smoking that stuff, then everyone needs to get on that because, some of the thoughts that you're getting is ludicrous, really. But yeah, I mean, he's the greatest and we're privileged to have him. You look at the teams that he's coached, Barcelona, Bayern Munich. We're a part of that prestige now with Pep Guardiola, but it's going to be an absolute devastating time when he goes and kind of trying to replace him. Whether I'd like to see maybe like Luis Enrique or someone. That's kind of my feeling towards the end. If Pep Guardiola is to go anytime soon after he's done the Spain with the World Cup. But yeah, anyone who's saying that you should get the boot after last night is probably talking in anger, but crazy for what he's done for us. 4 titles in one season, the formidables, and 100 points. Yeah, never been done before. So he broke records left, right, and centre in this league, and it's crazy that someone can come in and do that after 2 or 3 seasons.
Ian's just put it on there as well, and that's why I dropped it on there. If Pep wins nothing this season, will he get the boot? I think you've just answered that question. Is that you just can't. It's like Sir Alex Ferguson's had seasons where he went and won nothing. It's like, should he be considered for a sack? He probably wouldn't even been considered for the sack because of what he's achieved.
Exactly, yeah.
Pep Guardiola is exactly of the same ilk and he's going in the same trajectory as what Sir Alex Ferguson is considered in world football. So, yeah, I think you've already answered that question without a doubt. Really good question from Simon, one of our sponsors in the chat. Do Man City need to buy an out-and-out goal scorer this summer? Now, look, the media and the pundits like to talk a lot about Man City. You know, when Man City are winning and free-flowing and scoring loads of goals, they don't need a striker. False nine, no problem. When they don't win a game, and I've not seen the social media today or the media in general, but I imagine there's one or two saying they need a goal scorer, they're missing a goal scorer. What is you, as a fan, what are your thoughts on that?
See, if you ever watch Feed the Goat, you will. I am notoriously known as the fence there. I sit on either side of the argument and don't like to make a dictation. However, I will kind of sit on the fence with this. You look at the last 2 years, we have won things without a goal scorer, without a striker. However, it is now coming to the detriment of games like Carabao Cup, for example, West Ham. They play a low block. We have no one in there for service. Crystal Palace, another prime example. We lost the first game just because of heads got on Laporte getting sent off. However, the second game, yet again, low block. There's quite a pattern repeating here. Low block. And I feel like, yeah, we do need an out-and-out striker because of that low block. So then it kind of forces teams to have to come out and play. But I just think it's a case of, yeah, we need that somewhat. Like, you look at the players that we have behind them, Foden, Grealish, Kevin De Bruyne. You're going to get service. You are going to have a field day in that striker role if you come in. And there's already kind of, we've seen it for the last year or two. There's only one name that I feel like is coming in the door, and I'm really excited if he's to come in, because God knows how many goals that could potentially be scored by that kid. That's all I'm going to say. And it's interesting, yeah. But we do need one. We need one just even to come off the bench if we do play that false nine, just someone to come in and kind of change the dynamic a little bit. Just get service into the box, play that route one style of football, just ask questions of defenders. We don't do that often enough, I feel, and sometimes it is important to do that. Like you've seen it down the bottom of the league, route one, quite low block counter. You've got to do it sometimes, and I feel like that's where we kind of miss out because we don't have them opportunities to do it. And someone like Erling Haaland or Julian Alvarez, who's already signed, they're two potential big names that you could see getting 25, 30 goals next season.
Yeah. Look, I think it's the young Argentinian that you just said. You signed him in January. I think Man United were looking at him. Even at one point, we were looking at him and we'd scouted him as well. He looks like a supremely talented lad. And if I'm right in thinking, his parent club, they wanted him to go back on loan, but Man City have been adamant that they want to take him straight away. And you've got a knack of those South American strikers. You look at Sergio Aguero; he's come in and
no one comes close to him, Pete. Don't worry, no one is getting close to Sergio Aguero. It'd be nice, but no one does it like Kun Aguero. So,
do you think he'll be the next one to have the statue?
I think it's already been said. Yeah, I think it's Silva, Company, and then him. Because I know in a week's time we're having that 93-20. Well, the club is that 93-20 celebration for that moment. So whether or not it's a case of that, yeah, definitely getting a statue, but no one's replacing that guy.
He's a supremely talented striker, and he's obviously, you've talked about it, that huge moment in which he won you your first Premier League title. I don't think that's a moment that any of you guys will sort of ever forget. And look, we can only hope for those moments ourselves, in the future. But there's actually, we've been talking about strikers, and we've been talking about our sort of situation. Well, I say our situation, our striker situation has got a little bit better recently. When we've seen this man back in training today, Newcastle United fans are very, very happy. It's been 4 long months without Callum Wilson in the team. He confirmed it on the Footballers Football podcast today that he does with Mikel Antonio, that came out, that he has been back in training for about a week now. So he'd have been training over a week. He's ready to go. It's just down to the fact, of whether the manager wants to play him. But just to add even more fuel to this game on Sunday, someone I think who started his career at Man City, Mr. Kieran Trippier, is also back in training. So the boys are back. Which is, look, in the squad in general, I think is going to have a massive lift, not just to them mentally, being back on the grass, back training. It's not just a case of running in straight lines. These boys are back in full training, and Callum Wilson confirmed that today, which is amazing news for Newcastle United. Exactly what we wanted. In terms of these boys back, and to see them before the end of the season. We're safe. We're not risk of going down or anything like that. But to see these boys, our best players that we've been without for, Trippier for 3 months, Callum Wilson for 4, and still do what we've done, it is fantastic. But great to see these boys back. And are you worried about these boys potentially coming back in and coming into the, maybe not even starting, but having an impact at some point in the game?
I mean, it's one of those things, obviously. We know, being an England fan as well, the ability Kieran Trippier's got, definitely. I mean, world class. You've got a definite world class player within him. Wilson, don't like to kind of play it down, but obviously strikers, it's hard to come back from injury. He's kind of been hit with a lot of injuries recently, hasn't he? Unfortunately, he is a good player on his day, don't get me wrong. You looked at him in Bournemouth and he had the potential to kind of, if he stayed fit, keep use up on his own potentially. But I think it's hard for a striker first game back to kind of come up against Laporte and Diaz if he's, I'm more Trippier than Wilson, I would say. I'm worried about, because the ability that Trippier's got, kind of, if you give him anything around the edge of the box, set piece, we've seen what can happen. I mean, he's no Ward-Prowse, but he's up there. But yeah, it's just hard for a striker to come back from injury first kind of few games. So it's whether a case of he'll play as well, maybe. But I mean, coming up against Diaz and Laporte is no mean feat, is it? So I'm quietly confident about that, but my words could come back to eat me on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll see. It's definitely got a boost for us, the fans. The website, Newcastle website, put some pictures out of training today, and it had a lot of Kieran Trippier and Callum Wilson, and as Gary said, the boys are back in tune, and we are looking to obviously get back to winning ways after that defeat against Liverpool. But look, there's a question here that I wanted to come to before we brought up the Trippier Wilson pictures, and Kamal's asked the question: do you think Jesus is going to leave the club in the summer? You've talked about Haaland potentially coming in and being that striker. Do you think that's going to be a make way for the likes of Jesus to move on?
You might be surprised in my answer, but I don't think so.
Right. Okay.
I feel like Jesus is kind of, he's got that ability, hasn't he? He can play on the right now. We've seen him recently bagging goals at striker. But I think Pep adores him. I think Pep loves his work rate. I feel like if anyone was to go, and this is going to be a big shout, I think it's Sterling over Jesus. Who goes?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like with Sterling is a case of, I feel like he would have loyalty, like not loyalty as such, but I feel like he would do the same job anywhere he goes, whether that's Arsenal, even yourselves, if you try to put the money where his mouth is, for let's say. But yeah, I think Jesus is just that kind of playing on the right, being that backup strike. Well, not even backup striker potentially if Alvarez is coming in the summer, so it'd be Haaland, Alvarez potentially. I just think it's a Jesus work rate kind of in them big games where Mahrez doesn't track back as much. Jesus, you've seen him in these big games this season. Liverpool, Chelsea, he got the winning goal for us at Stamford Bridge. I just think he's young. His ability off the ball, his work rate, he's just levels above some of the wingers that we've got at the moment. And I think Pep appreciates that a lot more than just raw ability. And I think Pep will keep him around just sheerly for that fact, and also that he is good on his game. I mean, when he started playing striker, when Aguero wasn't fit, we caught him offside more than he got goals. But yeah, I just really like Gabby. I just think his work rate and his kind of persona on and off the pitch is just incredible. And he's young still. He's only 24, 25, so he's definitely got years ahead of him. Whereas I think Sterling's kind of, once Sterling loses that bit of pace, I think it's tough for a player like that. Whereas Gabby isn't known for his pace. He's kind of known for that work rate and that ability to hold the ball and stuff. So yeah, it could be potentially that he goes to just to get game time, really. But I mean, after he heard the Arsenal rumours, you suddenly seen a change in form, didn't you? So that might say something as well.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, you surprised me by maybe you haven't. When you mentioned Sterling, I was like, oh, okay, maybe he could be the one to lead. But actually, so one thing I noticed, I think he came off the bench last night, late on. I think it was in extra time, but he hasn't really been playing recently. And, that's been a real surprise for me, because obviously we've seen what he could do with England in the Euros. He was one of our main players. He was one of our standout performers for England. And it's kind of, to see not play a lot of football in one of the most crucial parts of the season for Man City, it maybe isn't that much of a surprise that you've just said, Luke, that potentially Sterling could go. Go on.
I just think it's a case of, we spoke about it a lot previously on our channel, like who would be the one to go, and a lot of us are kind of having different opinions. But I think the more and more we're seeing Jesus performing like this, it's kind of, I don't know if you follow City much in regards to like our contract dealings or anything like that, but it reminds me a little bit of like Stones last year. Don't get me started on Stones this season and his injury record over the past few years, but he's got better. But you look at him last season with kind of that run with him and Diaz towards the start, like mid-season, and then that run till the end of the season, and then he got the contract extension there, and then you look at this season, where is he half the time? I feel like it's another one of those situations, but you've got to bite the bullet. Jesus is still young, 24, 25, like I said. But I just feel like Sterling kind of, if he was to go anywhere, he would just hit the ground running. And I think that plays into a lot more of City thinking about that rather than just kind of, I feel like with Sterling as well, it's a case of he could do well next season. Because obviously, like you said there with England, when he plays with that, true number 9 like Harry Kane, he does perform really well. But it's whether or not potentially Pep sees him in that system like Gareth Southgate does, or he thinks that he can cash in now, because I think Sterling's contract is running out soon. I'm not sure if it's next season or the season after.
Wow.
But yeah, it's things like that as well, I think. But I think I did see a report this morning or something. They are looking to speak to a few players about their current situations, but who knows? We could certainly soon find out. And if you can cash in on a player like that, I think, how old Sterling is he? 29, 28?
Yeah, about 28, I think. 28.
Yeah, if you can cash in on a player like that for, for 20, 30 million, then Jesus for like 30, 40 million, I think you're going to. It's the smart business sense as well, isn't it? Which is what football's becoming these days, sadly.
No, you're right, and it's it's definitely piqued some of the interest of some of the fans in the chat. So Kamal said Jesus sounds like a anyhow kind of player, and he's Brazilian. And Kamal, you are not wrong there. We are building a big Brazilian contingent. We've been linked with so many Brazilians, whether it's Lucas Paqueta, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Richarlison. Neymar has been thrown out there. Who's that?
He is an absolute baller, Lucas Paqueta.
Oh yeah, he's a top player, and Bruno Guimaraes is very, very good friend. So we are
Bruno.
All us at Newcastle are kind of crossing fingers and toes and hoping that the ownership can get that deal done, because he would certainly significantly improve our midfield and create.
Won't be cheap though, because I mean, you look at when he went to AC Milan, I think that was like a 35 million euro deal. I don't think he was cheap even at a young age, but yeah, he's a very exciting player, but it's just always a case of can they do it in the Premier League. But you've proved that with Bruno Gomes, and I think Real Madrid were looking at him after this season, weren't they? So
Yeah.
he's doing
And
something
Arsenal,
right.
And Arsenal fans.
Well, they could have signed him at the same time.
Yeah,
They just didn't bite the bullet.
Exactly, and Arsenal fans have been very salty towards Bruno Gomes, but yeah, I wonder why, and that's why we've created a song that brings Arsenal into the fact that they could have had him, but he chose us instead. But yeah, definitely want to watch Lucas Paqueta. Lyon are not looking like getting European football; they're struggling financially as well. Could mean that there's a deal to be done at a reasonable price because they're going to need money to balance the books in the summer. So fingers crossed. We get in there, but obviously, there's a little bit of talk with regards to, oh, hold on, there's an update. Roma have apparently taken the lead against Leicester, so thank you for that, Yano. 1-0. Tammy Abrahams, who are another player that Newcastle fans have been really keen on potentially looking at in the summer, but for me, Jose Mourinho is not going to let him go. He's
very expensive as well. I mean, that's 60-70 million you're looking at there to even get talks.
And he's had a really good breakout season in Serie A under Mourinho. So I just don't think, with potential of European football as well, that he's going to make that jump back to the Premier League with a team that's not in Europe. But, Simon's come up with another question again before we move on to the next section. He put, which players will Man City let go in the summer, if any? So you've talked about a few already. And, before you kind of name one or two players that you think might leave the club, I'll throw one out there. And you've just already mentioned him earlier, having, been an in and out type of player, and that's John Stones. He's a player that I really rate, and I think he's a really talented player. He certainly shows it when he plays regularly for England. He doesn't play as much for Man City, but do you think he's a player, like you've just said, that maybe Man City, because of his injury record, might just cash in on him in the summer and move him on?
Nah, I think the contract that he signed last season is too much for any team to warrant paying him out of, really. And kind of the money that we would require to get rid of him isn't worth it for most teams when you look at his injury record and his appearances. But for me, I agree with you. I think he's that partnership. Like we talk about it a lot as like Feed the Goal. We kind of say we have like Stones, Laporte, Diaz. Ake is coming into it. Got to give credit for him, the massive glow up he's had over the last few weeks. However, I just feel like a case of them three, let's say, I feel like Diaz and Laporte are our two best centre halves. However, the best partnership is Stones and Diaz. So it's very hard to kind of figure that out when you've got two of your best, but they're not the best partnership, unfortunately, which we kind of seen last night as well. Not to mention it again with, I think I'm suffering from PTSD from it. But yeah, it's just, I think it would cost a lot too much. And I kind of think players that we could see going, I hope and pray Zach Steffen's gone. I really do after that FA Cup.
Oh, God.
And I think every City fan is in the same boat. There's no love lost. He'd do well, even like yourselves. I think he would do well in a mid-table, pushing on Europe Premier League side where you require just a good shot stopper. Because we can't deny the facts, he is a good shot stopper.
Yeah.
However, if you try and play the ball out, he is in no man's land. You look at the games that we've had him in goal, we can't play out from the back and we suffer. We suffer heavily. Not to say Ederson isn't the greatest shot stopper, because, that header last night, we kind of look at it back. Could have maybe done better, but yeah, Ederson's just world class with his feet. The other ones I can kind of see really is maybe not even Zinchenko, because I feel like Zinchenko is a squad player and I feel like he knows that and he's got the passion for the club and he knows that. Other one, maybe Gundogan, if his back problems are true from what the rumours were saying and he wants kind of his swan song seasons in Germany, or that could be one. And then others, really, I can't really think of anyone else who kind of would be looking to leave. Obviously, Fernandinho's gone in the summer. He's not extending his contract. You've got me thinking now. Just trying to think of any others who I can think of that would maybe leave. I think to throw a curveball out there, who you probably wouldn't have seen coming, Mahrez.
Really?
Not by our choice, but you know, he's a Algerian national, but kind of that French kind of language about him, and obviously that lifestyle culture. Who knows? Would he want his kind of last few years to be in Paris, PSG?
Yeah.
Sterling, we've already spoke about. But yeah, other than that, really, I feel like a lot of the players know, like we play on, and that's what we'll get up to when we go to the lineups. Like we play a game called Pep Roulette. I think a lot of the players kind of know Pep always likes to tinker about with it. No one is going to play the same two games unless they're kind of performing. You know, you've got your stables like Kevin De Bruyne, Rodri, Edison. But a lot of players know that they're in it for the squad, not for like to play every game. I feel like the only one that's going to come in and do that is Haaland. I think the wage demands that he's got, if you're getting 300, 400 grand a week and you're not going to be happy. Well, I personally would be happy sat on the bench, but I can't play football. So, you know, it's a sad reality. But yeah, I mean, it's just a case of we'll have to see in the summer who's going in and who's going out. But yeah, it's a case of the board know what they're doing. Yeah. They came in for a reason. They came in years before Pep, and they got Pep in. They know we've not had a bad transfer, really, have we? If you look in the last few years,
yeah.
There's very rare. So they know what they're doing, and they'll make the right choices. I'm highly confident in that. That's all I'll say. Like Grealish, next year, Grealish will be a completely different player, I feel.
We'll touch on Grealish in a second. I know you just got to grab your charger.
Yes.
So if you want to grab that, because there's been a few questions in from a Newcastle perspective. So Tom Dixon, big friend of the channel, Newcastle have confirmed that Callum Wilson and Kieran Trippier are both back in full training ahead of the game on Sunday against Man City. We put those pictures up. They are back. They're back in training. Great to see Callum Wilson back in and hear him talking about it on the Footballers Football podcast. If you haven't watched it, check it out. It's a really, really good listen. And Kieran Trippier, I think he's probably been back in training a little bit longer than Callum Wilson, but maybe the pictures haven't yet just quite confirmed that. So really, really interesting to see what Eddie Howe does with regards to that on Sunday. As well as that, we questioned it on Squad Game. However, Paulie D, Paul Dummett has signed a 1-year extension at Newcastle United that will see him through to the summer of 2023. Very happy to sign his deal. He's delighted to still be and carrying on his time at the club. So, yeah, great news for him. Chantel seems to think, thinks it's to give him the 10 years at the club. You know what? I wouldn't put it past Newcastle United to have done that. When has there been in recent years a player that's played for 10 years at Newcastle United and been given the recognition for it? You know, people like Shodan Miobi and various other players that have spent long time at the club. Steve Harper, another one that hasn't been given the recognition for being at the club for as long as 10 years. I think Paul Dummett will be the first in the years to come of many that will have that sort of recognition. Geordie Toonfly says, as for Dummett, I think it's a decent thing to do, if only to balance the amount of British players in the squad and he stays fit. Now, you know what, Geordie Toon for Life, you are absolutely spot on. We talked about it last night on the show with Paul from Toon Review, where we covered the squad game. Great show. Check it out if you haven't already watched it. We talked about this. We talked about, if they do keep the likes of Paul Dummett, it is really to keep that level of British quota in the squad, in the 25-man squad. And you know what? As you just said, Geordie Toon for Life, there is a question mark about Paul Dummett's fitness. And it will take the pressure off him if he's not expected to play every week. So if he comes in the cup games or comes in last 10, 15 minutes and does a job in a particular game, that's what he'll be brought on to do. And that won't require the same level of fitness and output as what he would need to do if he was a regular starter. So yeah, I think it's a good deal to do with regards to that. Ian said, was happy if Dummett was allowed to leave, thought it would have freed up a spot for a new signing or a younger player. But 1 year isn't a big risk. And you're right, it's not really a massive risk. keeping Paul Dummett for another year. But what it ensures is that we have that British quota and as well that homegrown quota, which is key right now. I thought they might have got rid of him and brought in Debole, who had been in the squad and training regularly and been on the bench a few times. I thought they might have brought him through, but clearly they've gone with that experience, and Paul Dummett is the one that they're continuing with. So again, we'll keep an eye on that. Massive thanks to CF Florida for your donation. Always a massive supporter of the channel. Massive thank you for your support with regards to that. And yeah, I think it's the perfect time to say we are so close to 3K. I think now we're under 50 subscribers away to making that 3K. So if you're one of those in the chat tonight or one of those watching on Watchback, click the sub button, join the Loaded family. And if you want to become a member, click the blue button on that screen that you can see there on our page, and you can become a member for $1.99 a month. You'll be part of the prize draw that we do once a month for various different sponsors that we have, and a huge chance to win a prize coming up. Jordy 2 for Life also says, Luke, 70 million is money in the pit, change down the settee. That's the difference in what Newcastle United and Man City are right now in terms of the financial power we both have.
I think if I found 70 million down the settee, I don't think I'd be in work the next day. So put it into that perspective. But yeah, I mean, in comparison, City to Newcastle, I mean, it is change, isn't it, really? The size of you are a country, basically. You are Saudi Arabia, let's put it that way. We're oil, you're Saudi Arabia, which is predominantly oil anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's no small fee when you've got the owners that you do. They're probably worth a lot more money, because I know in the Middle East countries you don't have to report your earnings and you don't pay tax. So yeah, you're probably worth a lot more money than the media reports, but they just don't declare it.
Yeah.
So
you're absolutely right. To be fair, I think it's around. It changed from something like initially when we were initially linked with them back in 2020, it was around the 280 billion that they were worth. Then that soon went up in a year to like 370. And then the fact that you've alluded to that, Luke, there's talk about that with additional assets, it goes up to potentially up into the trillions. In terms of how their wealth is. It's just crazy to think about that you have an owner that has those sorts of assets available. It doesn't mean they're going to all get ploughed into Newcastle United, of course not. But what it means is that, you know, if we have the capacity to throw money behind the club and better the club, like you've done with your training facilities and everything around the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Club, it means that we've got owners that are willing to do that. And
well, I think they've done it very smart, haven't they, for like business aspects as well, and build good business relations within the UK. Like, I think I've seen a comment further down that obviously a lot of the industry in my area, obviously like Teesside, Hartlepool, is chemical industry and nuclear industry that is predominantly brought across from these Middle East countries and the Far East Asia and stuff like that. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if in 10, 15 years' time, if obviously the Saudis are still here, that you see big money coming in from like BN Sports or DAZN and kind of for these TV rights, and I'll buy BT and Sky. And it's a heavily monopolized. I think they're doing it very smart in the way that they're coming across to this country in the UK, because we all know it. I don't like to get political, but this government, if you were to back them with money, they would kind of not care what you do. So they're coming into a country where a lot of the money can be spent, and they're building infrastructure, and they'll kind of develop the area, and it's a good area to be a part of. There's a lot of business to be done up in the north. So yeah, it's good to see. Like I said earlier, it is really interesting to see how you do it. If you do it in the right way, there's always that. People are going to talk about, like you talking about your money there and saying, oh, you can go and buy, like obviously when we all first seen the money coming, saying you're going to sign Mbappe, Haaland, you know, we had this dream of £500 million for Kaká back in the day, if you remember, and paying him 500 grand a week and stuff like that. But, you know, they're dreams. But I just think it's kind of a case of yeah, the money's there, and you've got to spend it, right? It's all well and good throwing money to it. Like, you've spent what, 20 million on Chris Wood. I don't know what your opinion is on him, but it's all well and good throwing this money at people. But if you don't buy the right people and build it in the right way and develop kind of these training facilities to, like, you look at, we'll probably in the next 10, 15 years have these youngsters coming up playing the way that we are playing right now. Like, you can already see it, Cole Palmer, Phil Foden, just trying to think of a few, Liam Delap, James McAtee. We've already got players coming through that are ready to step into that first team in the next few years. So yeah, it's about spending the money right. It's not just a case of having it, you've got to do the right things with it.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. Yano said we couldn't have 12 or 13 players in our 25-man squad. Stop the BS keeping the quota rubbish. I think that rule is just not long changed. So it was that you had to have around 3 or 4 players that were part of came through your academy as part of your squad. So that was what we meant by the homegrown. British-based players is a little bit different, and I think they've made it from next season on, where it is British-based players. So it's not necessarily about the homegrown. And if they are homegrown, as in come through, your academy, it includes playing anywhere in England and Wales. So it could be potentially on loan as part of that development structure. So they've changed the structure slightly, Yano, in the last couple of years. So that's why we're saying that now. But that's why I still refer to that homegrown. But I think it's homegrown as general now. But yeah, it's forever changing the rules and regulations. We've now got 5 subs next season. It's all over the place. Whatever they'll do next, we never know. West Ham are 1-0 down, apparently, after going down to 10 men. Cresswell being sent off. It doesn't look good for them at all from their perspective. Tom Dixon said, what is the atmosphere like at the Manchester Derby? I would love to attend one. What is it like? Is that would you say that's your biggest game of the season, the Manchester Derby, or would you say Liverpool has become a bigger one for obvious reasons?
Yeah, I think you've got to look at both, haven't you? Like, recent times, obviously, United are in the mud and it doesn't seem like they're getting anywhere out. I mean, that Ten Hag song is absolutely lethal.
It's dreadful. If anyone's not listened to that Ten Hag song, I saw a video going about after Monday night's game against Brentford, which is, it's not the best, I've got to be honest.
I literally watched it after the Real Madrid game just to cheer myself up, to think we don't have that, and I'm so thankful to be a blue, not a red. I mean, you look back in the day, they were calling us the noisy neighbours, and as Fergie once famously said, not in my lifetime. So we were no longer the noisy neighbours. We took Carlos Tevez, we won the league, and from there it kind of went on the downward spiral for him. It is incredible, I'm not going to lie. Obviously, it's that Manchester Derby. But I think you kind of have it like you have the old school and you have like the kind of newer breed of fans now, don't you? Like, I've grown up kind of always seeing United and being in their shadow and kind of appreciating that we were mediocre, and now look at us and we're the ones on top. But it still is absolutely crazy at games. Their atmosphere is there because we always want to beat United. We want to make sure Manchester's blue. But the last couple of years, obviously, we haven't. The kind of leagues escalated to like Liverpool rivalry, like just before COVID. And then kind of COVID hit and we weren't able to go and watch games. But like this year, it was like, unfortunately, I wasn't there due to work commitments like the following week. But yeah, it was just, you could see it on the TV when you watched it on Sky Sports. But like, I've been to a few, and yeah, it's just heated, kind of what to expect. And you can see it all over social media, the bounce back of like kind of United trying to poke in between City and Liverpool, not interested, but it's just that rivalry with Liverpool now, and I would have fucking hated it if we'd have got to the Champions League final, because that week of build-up would have just been, the timeline would have been interesting to say the least. I think a few words that can't be taken back would have been said by people to certain other fans, but yeah, I just think it's a part of football, isn't it? Like, you've got your rivalries, like, unfortunately, you don't have any of them in the league anymore. Sunderland or Middlesbrough, for example, say the two closest ones. But you know as well yourself how passionate these games can be, and kind of, you know what's on the line. It's the bragging rights, and it's the right to say, oh, up until the next game, we're the better team. But yeah, it hasn't been our time with Liverpool recently. We've had it very, very unfortunate in both of the games, I would say, and the FA Cup. But you know, it's a good rivalry to have. I don't like Scousers, and I will declare that openly out there. I've made it known. Just don't like Liverpool altogether, just the club in itself. But yeah, it's one of those things. As long as it never gets malicious or out of hand, it's always nice to have that rivalry, I feel.
I think that's where it's different for Man City and Liverpool and those rivalries, because if you look back to the Jamie terms of two teams in Premier League history, and I think from that point of view, it's a case of, there was the battle of Keane and Vieira with Man United, Arsenal that people talk about and people remember, but it's not quite the same. I think in this case, it's about purely football, and I think those in the chat will probably agree with that. It's purely on a football quality level that they really sort of get on each other in each other's throats from football related reasons. But interesting point here. Ajax is organised. It is organised Man U. It's not with their owners, in my opinion. I think that's
not in your opinion. It's fact. United are not an organised club at all. Yeah. But I think you're going on about the rivalry there as well, just to kind of butt in again.
Yeah.
Just to take another dig at Liverpool, you've got to remember they've got the best manager in the world, the best centre-back in the world, the best midfielder in the world, and the best wingers in the world, and apparently they're the best club in the world. So, everyone's going to have that rivalry against them because they want to be the best in the world, which is, I beg to differ, but, as Pep made a dig in the press conference as well, they have all these best players in the world. Why aren't they top of the league?
Yeah.
That's all I would say.
That's a fair point. And I think with the style of, I think it comes down to styles. I think people maybe prefer the attack minded, the animal instinct like.
It's rock and roll, isn't it? It's rock and roll football, as Jurgen once said, heavy metal football, and I think it's all out, full throttle. City know how to deal with that tempo because we kind of play the complete opposite. We play that tiki-taka kind of, we like to keep the ball, we like to look good, but yeah, I've said it on several pods of ours, and I've had a lot of backlash for it. I think certain players in Liverpool squads wouldn't be well fitted elsewhere, and the big one for me is Trent.
Yeah,
and I feel like Trent. You've seen it defensively against Villarreal. Trent cannot defend. He is a system player. There is a massive reason why he doesn't play for England as much, or conveniently, he's always injured when England call him up, as I've seen in recent months. Yeah. But I just don't see how he is he is a good player, don't get me wrong, he's incredible, absolutely incredible. And I think any team would be privileged to have him. But I just think when you're not as reliant on defensive duties in your team, he plays well. But then when you're kind of asking him to defend, like you look at Anthony Gordon the other week, he had him in running rings and he's a young lad. It's just one of those things for me. I think certain players look good in that team, but if you put them elsewhere, I think it was kind of I don't know if it was Mourinho or someone else said like we had Mo Salah at Roma, and look what he did. He didn't perform to this level, and that kind of proves the world class players can go anywhere and perform. And not to say he's not world class, but there's reason why he didn't perform elsewhere for me.
And it wasn't long before that he was playing for Chelsea and coming off the bench against the likes of Liverpool and wasn't really putting up any trees. And sometimes teams or players find a team and it just kind of clicks. And it's you
look at like Kevin De Bruyne. I think any team he walked into and he performs. Just that ability that he's got. Aguero, when we had him, he's the same. And kind of you've got other players like Edison. Maybe not because of the way he plays. He's not the best of shot stoppers, but he's unbelievable with his feet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like any team. Like I will admit, we've got players in our team who are kind of, Edison is the big example of that. A system player to play the ball back with his feet. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't know if you've seen on BT the other night as well, Michael Owen saying, a former Newcastle player, saying Van Dijk is the greatest centre-back of all time.
I'll be honest with you, and I think most of the Newcastle fans in the chat will probably agree. We don't really care about what Michael Owen has to say. We don't really listen to Michael Owen and take anything that he says with
I'll put it on mute after he said that.
Yeah. We take everything that Michael Owen says with a pinch of salt, and that's because he basically siphoned money out of the club when he was at Newcastle United. He wasn't committed.
Yeah, because he got injured, didn't he? Yeah, I think after the first season.
He started well. He then obviously broke his foot, rushed himself back too early for the World Cup, then did his cruciate ligaments at the World Cup, and then was out for a year on the back of that. Then when he came back, obviously it was a very different Newcastle to what he left, but there was almost an air of arrogance about him and not really wanting to work hard and improve the club, and being that.
I don't like him after that 3-2, if you remember that at Old Trafford.
He obviously went to Man United and scored that winning goal, and you're right. And he all he does is talk about Liverpool and lavish praise on Liverpool now, and it's because he feels bad about the fact that he went to Man United and won his only Premier League title at Man United when he apparently loved Liverpool. So it's all embarrassing. I don't really listen to Michael Owen.
Galacticos era came for him, didn't it, and ruined his career, I'd say.
Yeah, I would kind of counteract what Michael Owen said with what Michael Ballack said, in that everyone seems to think that Virgil van Dijk is the best centre-back of all time in the Premier League, but he's playing in an era where the likes of Drogba, Shearer, Omri, Bergkamp, and Andy Cole, many others that are top-level strikers over the years, that other top-level defenders, John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, and many others who had to play against week in, week out. He's not playing against, in Michael Ballack's mindset, the same level of striker week in, week out.
Well, you just say like one centre-back partnership that comes to mind, Maldini, Berezi. I mean, if they played in this era, I don't think they'd concede a goal. So yeah, it's that putting it into perspective. But yeah, I don't even think he's top 3 for me. I feel he is on his day, but it's when people talk about him having this aura and stuff, like, I think he'd get exposed quite heavily if someone. We'll see next year. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. We'll see next year when it comes to Man City, Liverpool, if a certain striker's in the club.
Definitely. Just to end the Michael Owen conversation, I think that comment just ties everything up about Michael Owen quite nicely. Jordy Mick, absolute legend. Thank you very much. Jordy Mick. And we move on from Michael Owen. But at this point now, what I wanted to do is obviously you put your predicted 11 together for Man City. So I'll stick it up on the screen and I'll let you talk a little bit about that. So here it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of looking at this obviously with the incidents that happened last night. Obviously Walker went off again injured. Really tough for him, I feel like, last night. He was probably our best player on the pitch up until then, other than Bernardo, I feel. Yeah. Just incredible. I think Vinicius had a really tough night with him out there, and then Cancelo unfortunately kind of didn't pick him up and kept Benzema on side for the first goal and stuff like that. But it's one of those, obviously Walker will be out for this. Yeah, like we do on Feed the Goat, this is the kind of time, like I said earlier, we call it Pep Roulette, because we never, ever know who's going to start. Even if you've scored the game before, you probably won't start the week after.
Yeah. Imagine being a player in that, knowing that from one week to the next, you don't know whether you could score a hat-trick in one game and then miss out for another 2. It's you have to have a certain mentality of player to be able to manage playing in that type of setup, because it is crazy. I mean, you've got players that are not playing in the team that you put out that I think would be mad not to start. The likes of Mahrez, the likes of Grealish, for example.
It's a blessing and a curse. It's a real good problem to have, because then you've got anyone who's not playing is then on the bench to create an impact. However, it also is a case of that then sometimes you have too many choices to pick in a certain area. But I feel like the way I've gone with kind of this lineup is obviously Cancelo's going to come back over to his natural position on the right. Ake, like I said earlier, has kind of revitalised his form in City. It took him a little bit of time, but I feel like he's adapting to the City style now. And obviously, you know, going from a team like Bournemouth where you're fighting relegation and you're kind of used to this route one and you're not used to having time on the ball and creating as many chances as you do, and then having to like say for Bournemouth, you're having to concentrate all 90 minutes because you're constantly getting pressed or you're constantly having chances against you. Whereas City, you might only get 2 or 3 chances against you in a game. And I feel like that is really hard to then adapt to. Yeah. But he's done it brilliantly. So I feel like it'll be him on the left kind of just to counteract like that. Say if we say Trippier's starting, kind of counteract that. And if it's Jacob Murphy, say, for example, for yourselves on the right wing, kind of counteract that ability to get the ball in. Rodri, obviously, kind of our only mainstay CDM this season, which is good because he's getting that run of form in. He was incredible at the start of this season. Had a little bit of a dip after New Year, kind of March, April time.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's incredible as well. I feel like Bernardo, he's going to be starting every game now just for his work rate, kind of covers Rodri. Because Rodri, let's be honest, hasn't got the best of pace. I feel like Bernardo's kind of in there to cover Joe Linton as well, and maybe potentially even Bruno Gomes. Yeah. Gundogan, more for that goal scoring ability, like we've seen it. He got the build-up play last night. I don't know if you watched the game, but he was kind of the main catalyst when he came on first couple of minutes. Then he got the goal chance for us to get the goal. Jesus, again, kind of just that work rate. It could potentially be Jesus striker, and then KDB comes in for Gundo. And then Mara's on the right, Jesus centrally, which I wouldn't be surprised with. But I just feel like kind of now we're getting to the business end of the season, Pep will kind of revert back to the false 9 and create these chances with KDB kind of being that lead in the front line and getting chances for Jesus and even Foden to come in. And yeah, I feel like we're in no other competition now. We've got the Premier League and that is it. And I feel like that's going to benefit us massively. We've got no Champions League final to think about, no FA Cup final like Liverpool do. So yeah, I feel like it's going to be our strongest possible squad out each week. And I think on the current basis of form and players that are available, this will be the leading lineup that will be there for Sunday just to kind of get us over the line. 1 of 4, shall we say, 1/4 of the way there.
Yeah, definitely. And look, you talked about the sort of Pep roulette. And not knowing who you're sort of going to play from one week to the next. And look, well, one thing we like to do is a little bit of a new sort of feature on the show is we like to get the old tactics board out. So I put a team together that can you see that on the screen? Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, so I've put a team out for Man City that I thought might start this game, and I've mixed it up slightly. So I've kind of, I hope I've got the sort of formation right in the team, which is set up for Man City. And I obviously made note of the fact that Walker went off injured, so maybe Cancelo playing there, Zinchenko coming in on the left, Diaz, Laporte. And then looking at maybe Rodri, I wasn't sure if Fernandinho might come in for this game. If they wanted to rest
one of those, isn't it? Yeah.
And then you got the KDB who could play any of these roles across here as well as in midfield. It is a little bit like him and Foden are literally like that. They can play as part of that midfield central, but they could play anywhere across that line if they want.
Well, it's like Grealish as well. Grealish can do that as well. Grealish can kind of come in and play that left centre mid or drop in. It's a nice gift to have, but it's frustrating for us at times when we're trying to predict lineups. I'll tell you that.
Definitely, and it's you literally any of those 5 could be just switched around and interchanged as much as they wanted to throughout the game. But look, this is the way we've set up, and I've gone for a little bit of a surprise change in the team. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. Is that I've brought this man back in. I brought Trippier back into the team as maybe a surprise selection on the day. Kraft's done a good job, but against Man City, against a team obviously he used to play for as a young lad, he might come back into the team. The rest of the team kind of sort of picks itself, although, different to what Liverpool and how we started when ASM was playing here. We had Joe Linton outright. And then we had Joe Willock in this where Wood is currently here. I think it's going to go back to what we sort of know best, in that having Joe Linton in the middle of the park, we missed him in the middle of the park, getting into those battles in midfield, winning, being physical, supporting target, and then releasing the ball to the person on the left-hand side, which is normally ASM, to try and produce a little bit of magic. Got Miggy coming back in on the right-hand side. Obviously, one of the other notable changes is Shaw. Shaw looked like he got, a bad injury in the build-up to the goal, where he got caught by Milner, and then eventually succumbed to the injury, had to come off. So it looks like Lascelles might come back in, which I've talked about before. I think that's a really awkward partnership. I've talked about it on Loaded a couple of times. I just don't think that Byrne and Lascelles work well, but I think that's going to be the natural selection. Those of you in the chat that thinks of another alternative, do you think that Fernandes might get a shot? It's worth putting it out there. Maybe even Dummett coming back in, as part of that centre-back pairing and having two left centre-backs, who knows? But Lascelles looks like the one to be coming back in. But I'm not really confident with regards to Lascelles coming back into the team there. Shelby coming in, obviously, is that number 6 playing just there. And obviously Bruno G is part of that midfield. From a Man City perspective, Luke, what is the one area, from thinking about all the Newcastle fans in the chat, what is the one area that you think Newcastle could potentially get at Man City and maybe cause Man City a few problems on Sunday?
I kind of don't want to say this just in case it happens, and then people will be coming back to watch this and blame me. But no, I feel like you've got to look at kind of two areas in this team, haven't you? You've got to look at Alan Saint-Maximin. From what I've seen, I mean, he can twirl and spiral on a ball, but then he can't put an end product in, from what I've seen. But
yeah,
it can still cause you problems if you have someone running at you, and luckily someone to then cover that second ball and run at you and ask you questions of your defenders. I feel like one of the key battles that we're going to kind of see is that central area. If you do play Joe Linton alongside, say, Bruno Gomes, I feel like it's going to be a case of if it's Jesus on the wing, to kind of have to come in, or Bernardo, say, and it's going to be like a Bernardo Rodri little battle with Bruno and Joe Linton. Yeah. And I think it's just a case of I think the massive thing for us is at home, against anyone. I feel like if we get that ball down early in the first 15 minutes and create 2 or 3 chances, we know that we can't finish our dinner. It's been quite prominently highlighted, let's say. But I feel like it's a case of, if we get that ball down early, first 15 minutes, and kind of ask questions of you, pin you back, I think it could be a very long day for you. But I feel like if you get that midfield battle won early, and kind of press on, let's say, kind of that Rodri area, with if Bernardo goes forward, catches on the counter, you've got someone like Alan Saint-Maximin to just run. I feel like another thing that a lot of teams have realised recently is, if Edison is on that ball, get your quickest player to run at him. We've seen it last night with Vinicius.
That would be him.
We've seen it a few weeks ago with Mane and Salah running at the ball. And I'm not sure if is Miggy, I'm guessing Jacob Murphy. Sorry.
Miggy here on playing on the right hand side. Miggy's probably
know who Miggy was.
Oh yeah, sorry, no, Miguel Almiron.
Right, okay.
Almiron,
Miggy, my apologies. I feel like it's a case of one of them, either Miguel Almiron or Alan Saint-Maximin, kind of could just, if they press that ball against Edison, we've realised Edison is just an absolute no emotion, heartless man from what you've seen when he did it against Jota. Yeah. He's got no remorse. I think if he was to do that and kind of let the ball go in, kicking it off someone, I think he would still try and do it again a few minutes later. I don't think he cares. But I think that could be a big pivotal thing for you, is if you kind of get one of them players to kind of ask that question and kind of put themselves in front of it. You know, anything can happen once the keeper's got that ball. I mean, his ball playing ability is incredible, but
Wood likes to
just
press as
think,
well. He's not as fast as ASM or Miggy, but Wood does. He works his socks off the ball, pressing the centre backs in this little spot here, and he does like to press the goalkeeper. So you'll probably find, like we did to Liverpool, the first 10 or 15 minutes, you had ASM playing that role of pressing here, although he wasn't the best. But then you had Joe Linton pressing up high here, you had Miggy pressing up high here, and it makes it very difficult for a team to play out. If you are able to play out, you've got then Joe Linton and Bruno that can battle in this area, and that's why I thought Liverpool found difficult playing out. They would play out and they would keep possession, but it wouldn't be as easy as what they thought it would be.
Yeah.
If you can get it past Bruno and Joe Linton at this point, and you've got the likes of, let me just get the cursor, De Bruyne and Foden or whoever it is coming on the end of that, going against Shelby, who's not the quickest, that's when I think we're going to have some problems.
Getting past that first barrier, isn't it?
It's that.
I feel like when you're saying about what it would there, I've noticed like when we play like Diaz and Laporte, they kind of are in for it with these physical battles against these kind of strikers. Like recently, they've been loving it. Like you look against like Benzema, not Watford as such. That was more like Emmanuel Dennis. Just trying to think of the most recent, like Leeds kind of getting in there, getting in rough, getting early, let them know you're there, as you always hear at Sunday League football. But I just feel like kind of when you played Liverpool are quite heavily reliant on, if you didn't press them, they are going to just play it to the wing. Or they're going to play it into that winger to kind of get that second ball down. Then the central midfielders will ask a question of their wing backs. Robertson will then or Trent will kind of then create the play from there. Whereas I think for ourselves, with the ball playing ability that we do have of Edison, if there is kind of a press from your front three, let's say, it could potentially be a case of that it's gone into like Rodri, Bruno and Joe Linton have kind of stepped to then press that ball. If it's say KDB and Bernardo or Gundogan, whoever it is, then you've kind of got three players in that area that can play the ball around you within seconds. And then if you're caught on the counter, you've got someone like De Bruyne, like we've seen it all season and the past few seasons, his ability to run with the ball to then create options for other players. It could be a long day for you if you come out with that press and don't come out successfully with it. But that's like any team against us. I respect teams more when they come out and try and press us at the Etihad, because you see a lot of teams will play that low block. And I think it's even like being an away fan myself personally, like going to away games, like a few that I've done this season. It's just boring. You don't want to go away to see your team just sit back for 90 minutes, do you? You want to see them go out there and ask a question. And I mean, you've got nothing to lose. You aren't in a relegation battle. You aren't in a place for Europe. This is just literally a case of seeing what your players' ability is against the best teams and asking a question of where do we need to improve to go forward. And these are the kind of games that you can then see the calibre of where you are against us. And Liverpool, for example, it was only 1-0, but I'm going to be honest, it looked like a foul in the build-up to me for their goal last week. But, I mean, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because, like I said, you've got nothing to play for. So that could either hinder you or it could benefit you because you can just go out there and play. And I think Eddie Howe is the kind of manager who is, warrants kind of applause that he's got. Like, look what he did with Bournemouth, created them into a decent side. And I think he would come here to kind of then create and kind of look at ways and aspects of just coming out and playing. I don't think he's someone who would quite happily sit behind the ball for 90 minutes. And I think he's been like that since he's came in. I might be wrong, but there hasn't been an element that I've seen where he's happy to just sit and play a low block.
No, well, I don't think we have really for any long parts of the game. I think there'll be times in games where we're under the cosh, where we have to sort of maybe drop back a little bit. But actually, what we tend to find is that it's normally Burn and Shaw. We do tend to play a higher line. Now, neither are really the fastest, but what they do, they allow us as a team to push right up the pitch. So we allow the fullbacks to get further up, so they're on the halfway line here, looking to support the wingers, and we push right up. That's one thing that we didn't do in the old mentality under our previous managers. You'd have a back three or even a back four Sorry,
back
back
five
five.
maybe.
So you'd have like a third centre back in here, and we'd be literally defending. You will know because you will have seen the games where you came to St James's Park with the Etihad, and we had those three centre backs on the 18-yard line just trying to defend the ball. We are not like that now. We are a more progressive team. We do like to kind of get the ball forward and cause problems, and that's what kind of really impressed me against Liverpool. We had a lack of attacking quality. There's no doubt about it against Liverpool, and we have just in general compared to the likes of Man City and Liverpool. But what I liked is the bravery, and you've just touched on it. Then you've talked about if we can break down that if we can win the press. From if the likes of Rodri or Laporte or Diaz are on the ball, if Wood can nick it, or if the ball gets played into Rodri, if the likes of Joe Linton, who's a good presser of the ball, his recoveries from presses are very good this season, as are Bruno's. If any of them can win the ball, and actually there'll probably be a moment if the team's set up like this, roughly like this, there'll be a moment, I think, if Rodri receives the ball here, that you'll probably find that you'll get maybe a Miggy and a Bruno looking to win the ball in those areas, and then Miggy will retreat here to protect himself from the left back, maybe Zinchenko if he plays, and there will be a little bit of risk and bravery. I saw that quite a lot against Leicester when we beat Leicester at St James's Park. Leicester are a good team on the board, and particularly in the second half, but we took risks in order to push the team further forward, and actually we did press with one or two men in tight areas, and if it was almost as if to say, be good enough to play out of our press. And at times Leicester really struggled. It might be slightly different with Man City because you guys are just so comfortable on the ball. But it will, for me, I'll be looking at the bravery levels of Newcastle United. We've got nothing that we need to hold on to. We can go out and really express ourselves. Are we going to go and do that high press with the likes of Bruno, Joe Linton and Shelby? Can we really push the midfield up the pitch and really press them and pen you guys back for a period of time? That's the kind of thing that I want to be seeing from Newcastle United on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it'll be interesting because, like you said, nothing to lose. But on the other hand, I think, like you said there, you've watched the Pep Ball or Nothing documentary with City.
Yeah.
It's not a case of Pep goes into these blindly. He will have watched your game against Liverpool. He will have watched the Leicester games and so on. He will kind of already envisage how he sees kind of his team coming out. And like you said there, if it is a case of like it's Almiron and Bruno getting into that press, it's just a case of we play one ball back to Laporte. When it's pressed on Rodri, then it's Zinchenko, and then we ask the question of, right, can we go from there? And it's really interesting to see, like, kind of you put it into this perspective on this tactics board, because it is just these little margins of, like if two people go to press, then you create one free, and it's always that case of if it's the right person that's free. Like if you leave Kevin De Bruyne with like 3 or 4 yards of space, he's gone. Like
that ball in there, and when Kevin De Bruyne is on that right hand side and he's travelling with the ball down here, that's when he's at his most dangerous. He can shoot from that position. He could be playing in the right hand side to Jesus, slipping in that ball to Grealish, making that run in there. That's where he's the most dangerous. But this is why I sort of brought it up as a point of discussion, because this is where I see where our Newcastle United will progress as a team. Are we going to be that team that are a little bit braver? Because you see the best teams do it. Man City do it. You guys were doing it last night. You were being brave and pressing high up the pitch, and maybe putting risks in and behind, but you were kind of playing through the risks and trying to ensure that you won the ball high, because if you win the ball high, you're in a better position to score a goal. And that's what I want to see in this Newcastle team. Not all the time, not for 90 minutes, but at moments in the game, a 10-minute, 15-minute spell here and there where we get the signal, and it happens in games. Mad Dog Tyndall, our assistant manager, Jason Tyndall, he'll give the signal to the players, and you'll see the intensity levels pick up for 10 minutes, and they'll really push.
Yeah,
and that's just what they brought to the team.
Yeah, and like you say there, Jason Tyndall, you've got experienced coaches in that regard. Like he was kind of one of the massive contributions to why you stayed up.
Yeah,
I think last season, and I think it's a case of you look at the work that he does for England as well. Like he is an incredible coach. Like for what he's done for I think he is in the England setup as well, if I'm correct.
Are you on about Graham?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, he came in and he worked under Wood. But you're absolutely right. He was one of the big reasons, because tactically he came in and created a tactical system that saw us playing better football, and the players appreciated it. You saw a rising level of the player.
But I think even under Tyndall, when you had him as an interim for a little while, I think he kind of tried to change the dynamic a little bit. Obviously different from what it was with Bruce and kind of this horrid time that you were having. And I think it's even well, I can't say we've really had it, because we've not really had the change mid-season very often. I remember it was maybe Roberto Mancini back in the day, kind of for Mark Hughes. That was the biggest glow up that we had. But a lot of ours have had time to implement their play style, like Pellegrini, Pep, Mancini.
Yeah.
And it's always that rejuvenation in the players as well. And you're seeing that now under Howe. I don't think anyone's ever been in the position that you have been in the table and kind of then just sprung up to 9th or 10th. I think it was when I last checked, or 11th maybe. But it's just incredible. And I think it's interesting to see now where you go on from here. But I just think on Sunday you will see, like you said there, you will see kind of the intentions of trying to play the right way. But I just think it's when you see use a here, not in the nicest way possible, use a here, but then you just realise where you have to kind of be at the top. And I think it's when questions are asked of you, we know how to then deal with that. Whereas if we then kind of come and press, can you answer them questions as well as maybe we can when you do it to us? I feel like that's how it's going to go.
Definitely, and it's going to be a really interesting one. Loads in the chat put in. It was Graham Jones, not Jason Tyndall. Jason Tyndall actually came in as part of Eddie Howe's backroom staff and took the first game, because unfortunately for us against Brentford, Eddie Howe's first game, he obviously had COVID and then couldn't manage the first game, so Tyndall took the first game for us. But Tyndall's come in as Eddie Howe's assistant manager. Tactically, from set pieces, he is heavily involved in all of that, and the general kind of emotional state and mental health of the players. You always see him going up and giving encouragement, big hugs after the game. He's one of them that really kind of brings that sort of family feel to the Newcastle United squad, and it's fantastic to see. But like I said, the Pep Roulette will be out. We don't know what the lineup could be. This is our sort of predicted lineup. I've put a predicted lineup on that you can see on the tactics board. It's slightly different to what Luke's put out. His tactics. I don't think we'll know until 3:30 when the team news comes out. But look, we know for sure as Newcastle fans, whatever team Man City put out will be a very, very strong team, and it will be a difficult game. But it'll be interesting to see some of these talking points about the press and the battle in midfield, and how the game goes with regards to that. So let's wait and see from that.
Definitely.
So we'll come back off the tactics board. To be fair, Yano, I could have put Lascelles back sitting right next to Dubravka in goal, because he is one of the most deepest you will ever see. If a striker is kept on side for a goal against Newcastle, you can bet that Lascelles is the one to do that, and that's a mentality thing. He's had Rafa Benitez, who was very defensive minded, and then he had Steve Bruce, who just was tactically inept. So he's kind of had to fend for himself, certainly the last 3 years under Bruce before Eddie Howe come in, and there has been some small improvements. But as we talked about in squad games with Paul, and we've talked about on previous shows, I don't think we should be emphasising Jamal Lascelles. I think Jamal Lascelles knows his time is coming to an end at Newcastle United. I think he knows it. Us as fans know it. I think Eddie Howe knows it. I think he's just looking at the most respectful way to make that happen and make that transition, because let's be honest, I don't see Jamal Lascelles playing many football matches for Newcastle United next season. Martin, who's on our channel as well, who's not a big fan of Lascelles, I think has alluded to the fact that that's exactly the case. So we move on, and we go on from that. Michael, welcome to the chat. Good to see you on. So the only thing that I would dislike about taking something from this game is that it helps the repugnant team Liverpool. No one outside maybe Spurs did more to derail our takeover. Yeah, that's a fair point. Liverpool apparently were kind of heavily involved in that, but Spurs were the biggest, if I can remember, the biggest ones to try and derail it. Why? Is because there was arguments and talk that potentially they wanted PIF to be the ones to take over their club, and that's why they had so much rejections of when it came through. And there was even talk of Spurs kind of
Big Daniel Levy.
Yeah, there was even talk when we first got taken over in October, is that Spurs flying the flag as the ones to encourage others not to sell to Newcastle United in January. Just very, very petty. But look, I'm not worried about Spurs. Spurs, yeah, great stadium, got good players at the moment, but the way in which we want to go, I think we'll be up there challenging. That is for sure. Now, what would normally happen at this point is that we would have some stats, and our great 00 Stato, Keith, unfortunately, he's not able to make it tonight because he had other plans that he had in the diary for a number of weeks. So he's really, really sorry that he couldn't make it. However, he would always drop in some stats for us, even though he's not been able to make it tonight. So he has dropped some stats to me, and I will read them out, obviously, regarding this game. So, Keith's put, apologies, unfortunately, I won't be able to make loaded away days tonight. However, I prepared some stats. Please feel free to use them, which we will. The stats are as follows. Man City versus Newcastle United. 1. Newcastle's record against Man City in the Premier League since 1993-1994 is played 43, won 8, drawn 8, lost 27. Okay, interesting.
I like to hear that stat.
Yes, that's why I said interesting. Not good for us. Cheers for this, Keith. I think we're going to have a common theme here, Newcastle United fans in the chat. Next one up. Number of goals in this fixture in the Premier League is 127. 87 goals from Man City and 40 goals for Newcastle. I don't think this is going the way we want it to.
It's going the way I want.
Yeah, the lads and lasses in the chat maybe would think slightly differently.
Don't worry.
Newcastle have never won an away game against Man City at the Etihad in the Premier League. Newcastle's record is play 16, won none, drew 2, lost 14. Okay, we did win in the cup. I remember one time where Rolando Aarons and Musa Sissoko.
Yes, I remember that.
And look, I've got to hold on to these moments because they are very few and far between.
Don't worry, Pete. You'll be creating your own very, very soon.
I hope so. I really do. And Newcastle on a run of 12 straight defeats at the Etihad. The last point at the Etihad Stadium was in 2006-07 season, a 0-0 draw when Glenn Roeder was manager. And Glenn Roeder did a good standing job for us. You know what, Geordie? You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. I would stop, but look, I did promise to Keith I would read out these stats. And look, I'm adamant I'm going to do so through gritted teeth. Newcastle's last win in the Premier League was at Main Road in 2000-2001 when Alan Shearer scored the winner in a 1-0 win. I remember that game.
Wow.
Great finish.
That long.
Yeah, a hell of a long time. Our record is not good at the Etihad, which is
mean,
why I was never going to go back until we started putting results together.
There's always time for change as long as it's not Sunday.
After Sunday. That's not what I say on this show.
Yeah. Sunday.
Top goal scorer in the Premier League this season for Man City, Gabriel Jesus with 8 goals, Kevin De Bruyne and João Cancelo with 6 goals each. Goalkeepers, Man City's Ederson has 19 clean sheets in the Premier League this season compared to Newcastle's Dubravka, who has 7. Which is not bad for Dubravka, since that we only started playing halfway through the season and we had a new manager. So, but Ederson tearing it apart. And number 8, since the start of November, Man City have only lost one Premier League game in a run of 24. I've only lost one Premier League game in a run of 24. I think that's meant to be. Won 20, drew 3, lost 1, losing 3-2 to Spurs in February. 9, Pep Guardiola's record as Man City manager against Newcastle is played 10, won 8, drew 1, lost 1. That infamous win at St James's Park, I think it was Fernandinho conceding a late penalty on Longstaff, and then Matt Ritchie scoring. I think that was the same day it was confirmed that Miguel Almiron was signing, which, you know, doesn't sound like anything big, but actually at that time, a January signing for cash money and the promise of someone like Miguel Almiron coming in was a big thing for us, and it was a memorable night beating Man City at that point. Eddie Howe's record as manager against Man City is played 11, won none, drew none, lost all 11 games he has managed against Man City. Keith, thank you for your fantastic stats.
Thank you very much, Keith, for them.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that's why he didn't come and join us tonight, because he knew that you might get a little bit of a little bit.
You'll have to send me them stats via direct message for the lads.
I'll drop them to you. And Jordy Mick, look, it's over. It's over. The white flags are out. If I had a white flag, I'd be showing it to you now. We're done. Please come back and watch the rest of the show. But yeah, it doesn't look good for us, I have to say, from those stats. But like you've just said, you know, stats and records are there to be broken. We are a different team now, and I'm not saying we're going to come and absolutely hit a masterclass. However, what is important is that, you know, we see the progression of our team. And look, everyone in the chat, Yano, Truls, Geordie, Mick, Tom, you know, all the guys. We've got Martin, who's part of the channel as well, on there, welcoming you and Luke in there. And yeah, I think his sentiments are there for all of us Newcastle fans. Please go easy on us on Sunday. There's so many in the chat. Kamal, Michael's joined us again. Great to have you on, Michael. Obviously a member as well. Paul is in the chat tonight. I could keep going through. Mark Pearson's in the chat joining us again. Ian's in the chat joining us again. If you're not already members, subscribe to us. Less than 50 to go. Another 10 subscribers tonight, which is fantastic. It is great to see. And you know, it's great to share these opinions.
I mean, to be fair, I'm just going to say as well, if it's any score result like it was for the under-18s last week, I don't know if you've seen that Man City under-18s against Newcastle under-18s. We won't be going easy.
Yes. What was the final score in the end?
13-0.
Yeah, I remember seeing it around 10 and thinking, this is not good at all. But look, it's like I say, records are there to be broken. Just before we go to predictions, there's a few questions that I started in the chat that we'll work through. Some Newcastle related, some both, some Man City related as well. So I'll just go through them. Is there any Newcastle fans wanting Liverpool to win the Champions League? How in Madrid for me? So he definitely wants Madrid to win. Are you praying for a Madrid win, Luke?
Hala Madrid. That's all I'm going to say.
That is the one, definitely. I don't think we will lose the last 3 games and we'll pick up some points. Simon, confident, that saying that he doesn't think we're going to lose at the Etihad, which was not good news.
No. There's 4 games left, remember, P?
Not for us. I think we've got 3.
Are you sure? I think everyone's on 34, aren't they?
No, we've played 35.
Ooh. So
we've got yourselves, Arsenal and Burnley left at the end of the season. So we've only got 3 games.
I don't mind if you win the next 2. But come on. Geordies, who wants to see Liverpool win another league? Yeah. They will have created the Premier League by then. They've invented everything else. They'll have invented the Premier League trophy. So, you know, just say it that way.
To be fair, there's a few in the chat that definitely would want Man City to win the league. There's no doubt about that. And we have our own Geordie Scouser, who doesn't support Liverpool or like Liverpool or Everton for that fact, who would have been joining me tonight, but he's not been able to make it. Maybe he knew that you were disliking of anyone associated with Liverpool, so that's why he maybe stayed away. But we've got another question here, Luke. As you live in Borough, look at the investment the Saudis have brought in the chemical business. I think you talked about earlier, Luke, as well. Thousands of jobs would be lost if it wasn't for the Saudis. What's your thoughts on that?
I personally work not in like the chemical industry or anything. I work in like logistics, and
Yeah.
obviously a lot of that probably wouldn't be possible. A lot of our business is over in the Middle East, like globally. So yeah, like I think a lot of people around here have got to be thankful for kind of the investments that they've made around here. Obviously, whatever goes on in their country, human right issues and stuff like that, all I can say is we're grateful that we're in this country and not there. But you know, that's their agenda. It's not what they want to do in this country. They're not coming here over here and imposing that law here. That's what you've got to think of it as. Everyone in the media and journalists can twist it how they want and say all these bad things about over there, but you've got to think they're coming here to kind of create something and put themselves in a good light. Maybe it is that they're coming here to do this to kind of make people forget about what's going on over there, but that shouldn't matter because at the end of the day, like I said, it's not here. It's not in the UK. They're not creating, obviously, like they're not enforcing their laws on anyone. They're not trying to get them in legislation, but they're just trying to create an atmosphere that they want to be a part of. Like, I mean, Amanda Staveley is not she's very scary to look at when I seen photos of her when I first seen who she was, and in the nicest way possible. They're here to create something. They're here to kind of do a project, and if that means spending money, who are we to tell them that they can't? Because they've done a lot for the countries around the world, not just here, America, Russia, unfortunately. But yeah, sorry to go off on a tangent, but they're here to kind of help you prosper. And why should anyone kind of object to that? If Liverpool had the chance, if any football club in the world had the chance, they would grab this with both arms and never let go.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Some good points as always from yourself, Luke. Lots of different questions coming in. I'll work through them all. It says, does City need to buy an out-and-out goal scorer this summer? We've already touched on that. You've definitely said that, and you think Haaland is the one that's likely to come in. Question around Newcastle. Pete, question about Ekitike. Is he an out-and-out number 9, or could he be a replacement for Maxi? Now, Ekitike can play up front as the top-line striker, but he has been played out wide on occasion too, so he can play that role. But be a direct replacement for Maxi? No, I think you'd want an out-and-out left-sided inside forward or attacking midfielder, someone either with a natural left foot or someone that's really dynamic, a little bit like Maxi, that can cut in and shoot on their preferred right hand side or their right foot. That's my preference. I don't think Ekitike is the direct replacement, but if we were to get him, yeah, I think he'd be used as a striker, if I'm honest with you, with a little bit of kind of an ability to rotate and play in other positions, a little bit like a utility. That's just my opinion on that. As well as that, Ian put, I'd take John Stones. We had this conversation in the Fully Loaded Transfer Show, which will be back shortly next month. And yeah, I would take John Stones as well. And it was interesting, Luke's thoughts that, maybe he's one that could potentially be shipped out with injuries that have plagued him at Man City, particularly in this last year. We know his qualities. Maybe a change of scenery will be the one that makes sort of John Stones get back into form again. So maybe it's something that Newcastle might consider. And we do need another right-sided centre-back. I know we're linked with Tarkowski and one or two others, but maybe John Stones at the right price could be an option. It's definitely one to watch and monitor his situation, which I'm sure Newcastle United are doing. A few jokey ones in there, or I assume are jokey ones. Can't see that young lad throwing in amounting to anything. We could take him off your hands if you're looking to get rid. Yano, always on the button with regards to that.
Stockport Iniesta.
Yeah. And Trolls has got in on the not to forget that awful De Bruyne. Yano, we should help City by buying him as well. I tell you,
they were both. You remember that Sky Sports clip with everyone saying 50 million for De Bruyne? Not worth it. Look at it now. Yeah. And Foden signed a 6-year contract extension to just sit on the bench. So, keep them coming. I'm all for proving people wrong, and that's what I love about City. We just keep proving people wrong, except in the Champions League, but it'll come. Like Cole Palmer once said, Prem soon come, Champions League soon come.
Definitely. I hope that's the same for us. That's for sure. City should City have kept Ferran Torres? Interesting question.
No. It's another Eric Garcia.
Okay, well, not good enough. Better in Spain.
No, one word: snake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, kind of took that 21 shirt, said, I want to live up to David Silva's reputation. I want to create a legacy here. Soon as that Barcelona call comes calling, first playing at Barcelona. It's unfortunate because he was obviously reaped the full rewards of Ferran Torres last season with that hat-trick and that back heel goal, but he was a good player, don't get me wrong. It would have been really interesting to see how he developed in kind of the start of the season. We were looking at that as him as the number 9. He had really good potential there. But I think it's like a lot of Spanish players, isn't it? You grow up looking at Barca, Real Madrid, kind of their legacies. Obviously, Pep created the best ever legacy, bar to Johan Cruyff at Barcelona. And you look at Spain as like a kind of footballing nation. If you're Spanish and can go back there, yeah, it's no question really. And I think the injury didn't play into his hands on the sideline a lot, kind of questioning whether he was going to get back in this side. And it was just very sour the way he left. Like, he left without saying goodbye. Obviously, not to say that's a big thing, but you kind of want that respect from players to say, like, thank you for my time. And it then kind of came out that he did send a goodbye letter to us, but it looked like it was just basically his agent had written it up and then he'd signed it. And it was just very like sour grapes towards the end. And it was probably better to have him out than have someone sat there causing a bad atmosphere in the club. And it was like Eric Garcia, he was another one, wouldn't sign the contract extension and kind of just waited till he could go on a free to Barcelona. That is like a Voldemort word in City folklore, Eric Garcia, because, yeah, just snake, that's the word that comes to mind with them both. It was, yeah, but it's like Pep says, if someone comes to his door and says that they want to leave, he will not stop them. He'll just say leave, and it doesn't matter who they are. Like, I think he mentioned it about Bernardo when kind of the questions were being asked about him. If he said he wanted to leave, he would happily let him go. There's no questions about that. But that's what you want as a team. You don't want someone in there who's changing the atmosphere to a negative one. But, yeah, would have been nice to keep him, to summarise it. Nice to keep him, but long term, it's better to not have him there than it is to keep him for the sake of the club and the squad, really.
No, I think that's a fair point. Okay, Chantel, I think Man City will take their frustrations out on us and make a point. It's going to be a big scoreline against us. I think you're not the only ones that think that, Chantel. There's a few.
I like that, Chantel.
Yeah, interesting question from Geordie Team for Life. Luke, if you could take 3 players from Liverpool, who would you take and why?
Pass. I
Fair enough. No,
I think obviously we've got to say 3 because, like I said, they've got the best centre back in the world, even best manager in the world, maybe. But no, I think if you were to look at it, that is a tough one because I don't think people would kind of. There's a big given one, Virgil van Dijk. Number 2, Thiago.
Okay.
And for me, the form that he has shown in this position this season, for me, Sadio Mane in that central role. He's good in the air. He's got that ability to kind of first touch and finish. He knows where the back of the net is. Yeah, I think a lot of people were probably expecting me to say Trent, Salah and Van Dijk, weren't they? I think Geordie Toon for life. But like I said, I don't see Trent fitting into many other systems other than Liverpool. I'll probably get a lot of hate for that elsewhere. But yeah, just for me, them 3 kind of, we nearly had Thiago. We potentially could have got Thiago from Bayern Munich before Liverpool. Because I think Pep's took him everywhere he's gone. Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and then could have potentially been City. But yeah, I just think them 3 kind of, if you put them in that City squad, it creates a lot of interesting, especially if it's say Laporte and Van Dijk at the back or Diaz and Van Dijk. It's going to be a long day for anyone who comes up against one of them partnerships, isn't it? So we nearly had Van Dijk as well if we'd stumped up the money. But
so could we. we wouldn't pay the 8.5 million that they wanted for Son. He ends up going to Southampton, and the rest is history. And it's a classic Mike Ashley all over again. But
what a blessing hindsight is when you look back at Mike Ashley and them transfers. And 40 million on Joe Linton, but he's kind of coming good now. But yeah, you just think it's like anything, though, isn't it? You've always got to look back and think, what if?
Yeah.
What if we'd have signed him? Would he be as good? You never know.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Definitely, we'll whip through some of these questions. Some of them Newcastle related. I would play Fernandes, but I think Lascelles will play instead. Yeah, I would be inclined to agree with you. I think Fernandes would be a better partnership. We talked about it last night. Would be a better partnership with Byrne than Lascelles. I just don't think they work well together. But let's see what Eddie Howe puts together for us. I would play against Gale in central defence. It's very clear that Yana is not a big fan of Lascelles, or maybe Gale for the fact that he's putting him in centre back. But yeah, that's interesting. Interesting one from Geordie Toon for Life. I don't know if you know about this. Kevin De Bruyne carrying an injury. He looked really out of sorts last night. Is there any truth in that, or nothing been confirmed yet from Pep?
It'll be a case of Friday. You'll kind of tomorrow. Yeah, sorry, I keep forgetting it's Friday. I keep thinking it's Thursday with this bank holiday. It's horrible. It's blessing for work, but not for keeping up with days. We'll kind of find out tomorrow if there's any truth in that. I mean, but Pep is quite good with the mind games of keeping people guessing, as you've seen when he said John Stones wasn't fit and then he appears for the first leg. Kyle Walker's not fit and then he appears for the second leg. And yeah, it's good to keep the mind games going, as we all once seen Fergie and Kevin Keegan had the best of mind games one point, didn't they, back in the 90s? But I mean, for me, I don't think he was carrying a knock. I think the way, when you look at kind of play like Kevin De Bruyne does all season long, you're going to have these games where you kind of burn out. We've seen it with Rodri, like mid-March, April, kind of these games do take the toll on you, these massive games against Real Madrid, Liverpool. And he was, we'll be honest, he was rushed back to fitness for Belgium for the Euros, and that played a massive part of him at the start of this season, and kind of it went on from there. And obviously, we'll find out tomorrow. But I think De Bruyne is someone, if it's a little knock, he'll play. If it's something that they think, hang on, if he plays this game, he might be out for the next 3. He probably will be rested, and it'll be Gundogan that kind of replaces him, and then it's Foden or someone in the false 9 and Grealish left wing from that predicted lineup I put up. But yeah, I think we would have known straight away if he was injured. I think it was more he got brought off for a tactical sense and kind of got trying to go all out for it. And yeah, it takes its toll when you're playing 40, 50 games at the intensity that he does. So I'm not worried, but we'll certainly find out tomorrow, and I'll be sat at work here in the press conference. And if I do hear De Bruyne is injured, it could be a long end of the season for us, because he's turned it on. He's turned it on these last few weeks, definitely.
He's been outstanding. And you know what? What was interesting is, I think if he'd have got to the final and won the Champions League, I think he would have been odds on for the Ballon d'Or. With his performances, I think he's just a top player. And before people question that, Jorginho was put up for a Ballon d'Or, off the back of a Champions League win, and I think that shocked the whole world, let alone Jorginho himself.
I still think,
and the same as that is that Modric won a Ballon d'Or for the same reason. And there was question marks about whether he maybe deserved that after Ronaldo and one or two others had fantastic seasons. So if that's the case in previous years gone by, I would certainly put De Bruyne in the shop window. That is for sure.
I think it's Karim Benzema's to lose now, isn't it, really? Yeah. I think if they don't announce it until January 2023 and the World Cup's done by then, I think the World Cup's going to have a big impact on this year's Ballon d'Or.
Yeah,
but I think it's Benzema's to lose. I think no one, even Salah's dropped off in the last few weeks. Like after New Year, he's kind of slowed down, hasn't he? And I think, it's one of those cases. It's Benzema's to lose. De Bruyne should be in the top 5, but we all know how these Ballon d'Or work, and somehow I wouldn't be surprised if Ronaldo wins it again because of him keeping United afloat. And but Ballon d'Or, it's not something that I personally take as like the best player in the world. You see it week in, week out who the best are, and the Ballon d'Or is literally just a journalist thing to kind of get their player out in front of everyone. For me, I don't take it as gospel. Unfortunately, it's not as it's not got the reputation that it once did back in the day. When you see the R9s and these, I was obviously pretty young when this was happening, but when you have the likes of like R9 winning it and people like Thierry Henry not even getting in the top three, that says the caliber of what the Ballon d'Or once was. Whereas now you're getting people like Jorginho coming in third because he played holding midfielder for the Champions League winning team and the Euro winning team, when he in fact didn't contribute as much as everyone thinks. He just kicked a few players and that's it. It's
No, I agree with you, 100%. It's definitely not what it is now, and the last couple I've not even watched them or even kept track of them.
It was always Messi or Ronaldo, and that was it. Since Kaká or Modric broke the mold, it got boring, and I think that's why it's good to kind of, in the nicest way possible, see these players fade out, because it's open game for everyone now. It's a fair competition again, and you would like to think so anyway, but I wouldn't be surprised if Messi and Ronaldo are still in the top 10 this year, truthfully.
Yeah. And I would say certainly Messi doesn't deserve to be. He's had a dreadful season, but it is about popularity. And loads of people have said it is a popularity contest. Jordy Mick said poppycock is the word of tonight. Mark put on a comment earlier about ASM, about him picking us up last season. Poppycock. That seems to be the word. Kamal was definitely happy with that as well. I've not heard that word for years.
It's a very southern posh word, isn't it? Poppycock.
Yeah. Mark Pierce is the I love it. Our chat.
We need more of these coming into our podcast. If you ever want to come and join Feed the Goat and have this out, that's brilliant.
Well, I was going to get you to promote it at the end, but look, promote your podcast now. You've got it in your tag.
Brilliant, thank you. So we're predominantly a Man City-based fan channel. There's 4 of us who host. So it's myself. Obviously, you came on quite a while back, didn't you, Pete? Myself, Sam, HBK Luke, and MCFC Daps. We're in collaboration with a bigger YouTube channel called Never a Foul. They're starting to put out some really good content over the last few weeks. Definitely go and check them out. We have a United fan channel, the Trafford Tunnel. You might have heard of it. Some of you viewers might have seen it. That's growing really well, and we're just trying to keep it growing. We've just recently hit 350 subs on Feed the Goat, so that's brilliant. We've got some big collaborations that are on there. So Big Steve, if you know who he is, from made some appearances on like the Lad Bible, for example. He appears from time to time. We appear on his channel. We do have a show that's actually live now, not to kind of, butt in on this show. It's been brilliant. We are live over there, just kind of discussing the Real Madrid game in more depth, because I'm too heartbroken to talk about it, and just previewing the Newcastle game. So if you want to jump in there after here, kind of get your points across for the Newcastle game, and then just let the people know in the Feed the Goat that MCFC Luke B sent you across. That'd be greatly appreciated if you could like and subscribe that video, and subscribe. Sorry, it'd be greatly appreciated. And other than that, pretty much that's it about the channel. Just bring weekly content, vlogs, watch-alongs. We will actually be doing a lot watch-along for the Newcastle game, ironically, because I can't make it due to being at work the next day, sadly, so early morning. But yeah, if you even want to jump in for that, if you're not going to the games yourself, jump in for the watch-along Sunday, if we hopefully get it all sorted. And that'd be greatly appreciated. But yeah, thank you for letting me get that out there and plugging the channel.
No problem at all. And like I say, we'll just wrap up really, really quickly. Last few questions, I'll just read them out. Truls, who's just left the show, great to have him on as always. Wilson is fit. We discussed that earlier. That is one that is definitely going to be, I personally think he's going to be in the team. Yeah, interesting one from Michael watching the first half of the West Ham game, and that in Dicker, whom we've supposedly sent scouts to watch, plays for Leipzig. Looked excellent, and he is a very, very good player. Like, there are certain players that I'm not talking about at the moment. Obviously, we've got the Fully Loaded transfer show coming up. There are certain players that I'm staying quiet about because I've talked a lot about Nunez in December along with Richie. And his popularity's skyrocketed now to the point where it might be difficult for us to make that deal happen, which I'm really disappointed about. So players like him and one or two others, I'm trying to stay silent and not talk about them. Reason being is because I'd love them to come and sign for Newcastle, but when people start talking about them and their name starts getting out in that media world, and start seeing them in the papers, and it always seems to be one of his loaded lads mentions a player, then all of a sudden they're linked, and then all of a sudden the big teams are after him, and we're just trying to stay quiet at this moment in time. But we will go with the transfer show and we'll talk about all these players. But yes, he's a very, very talented player. There's no doubt about that. Martin's put in there, and if you haven't watched the show last night, you might not know what he means by Frenchness in the City team. There is, I think, a little bit of Frenchness.
Parler en français. C'est magnifique.
There you go. There's your Frenchness there, Martin. But yeah, if you want to know what Frenchness means and why we're talking Frenchness, jump onto that show and watch the Paul from Toon review show again. It's a fantastic show, and so much chatter, so much crap, so much funniness, but so much good football content in there. Get in touch with that. And look, Adam said it, and I'll say it again. Fantastic guest for us tonight, Luke. Pleasure to have you on. It's been, truly said, a great show. Really, really enjoyed it. And this is why we do what we do. This is why we do away days, because we love you guys having kind of you opposition fans on here to talk all things Newcastle United. So it's been great to have you on. And
nice
yes,
isn't as hostile, let's say. Sorry, yeah. I apologise. But it's nice to be on one where you're not having as many arguments for once. And
we're not like that. We're quite open to discussion, and like you'll see from everyone in the chat tonight, it's been absolutely superb.
Been brilliant.
Like that. We just ask questions. We want to know more about your club. We're just a general talking Newcastle United fan base, and this is why we love doing these shows. And I apologise to Simon. Yes, Frankfurt, not Leipzig. My bad. Slip of the tongue. But yes, still a talented player. But look, we'll finish on Luke. Your predictions. So by 6-7 o'clock Sunday night, what do you think the score is going to be?
Oh, you've put me on the spot now. I'm going to say 2-0. I'm going to go quite modest. I don't think it's going to be, as Chantel said earlier in the comments, kind of getting revenge for Real Madrid. I think it'll be quite a methodical game. But yeah, I'm going to go with 2-0. I can see Gabby Jesus continuing his goal scoring run, so I'm going to say 1 for Gabby. And then I feel like it's going to be a Foden second that kind of puts the lights out, let's say.
Interesting.
Let's hear your prediction then, Pete.
Well, we've got some predictions coming in. Bordeaux City, you got Chantel's gone 34-1. That is.
I don't know if she means 3 or 4-1 there, maybe. But
she might be saying 34-1. It was Chantel that was saying about how there'd be a backlash. So Michael's gone 8-0. So it's not looking good for us. Obviously, Adam said a fantastic guest. Adam, you have been. Geordie Mick's gone for 2-2. So they're all out there, but look, I think Man City will win. I'm normally quite positive about Newcastle United, but I do think Man City will win. I think it might be a 2-1 win for Man City. I do think there's a chance of us getting a goal. Adam's already said he'd be happy with 2-0. I think it'll be a 2-0 loss. But also, Tom Dixon's put Tottenham to beat Liverpool at the
Yes.
weekend. So we've got a lot of Newcastle fans that are backing Man City to win the league. Simon's gone for a 1-1 draw. So yeah, I've gone for 2-1. I think it might be a 2-1 win to Man City. And I take that. Geordie Team for Life has also gone 1-1 as well. So, looking potentially a draw. People being hugely optimistic with a Newcastle point of view, which we always are. It's our club. We want it to be the case. But yeah, I think that'll be an interesting one. And I just want to copy. You've just sent me a link, Luke, which I want to share with the group just before we go. So, what I want to do, because the best way for me to get it out there is I'll put it into the chat if you don't mind. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. It's basically Feed the Goat is live now. So once this is finished, if you fans of this channel, if you want to hear what my colleagues at Feed the Goat have to say about the potential lineup, like I did, like we say, Pep Roulette, just hear our thoughts on the Newcastle game, even if you want to see what they think about the Real Madrid game. It'd be greatly appreciated if you could jump into there. And if you just go in and comment saying that Pete and MCFC Luke B have sent you. So from Loaded HQ and MCFC Luke B has sent you. If you go and drop a like on the video and subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated. We're slowly trying to push on to 500 subscribers. And when we do, there might hopefully be a giveaway. So, if you subscribed, you could be in it to win that as well. So let's hope.
Brilliant stuff. And look, I can't go without shouting out the sponsors. So we've got Black and White Army, Bronwyn and her team still putting out the gear that's been a massive plus. All the proceeds going to the Newcastle United Food Bank, and obviously her new range, which involves the loaded mag hat. So Daz has got his hat. Others coming on the way. Looking forward to getting mine in the near future. But if you want another hat and another alternative, you've got Simon from Shyburns. Got a fantastic hat there as well, which I would definitely be purchasing to add to my collection of what I'm wearing tonight. Lots of other clothes and gear, and obviously with Shyburns, it's supporting mental health. Which is something that ourselves at Loaded, Martin and Richie in particular, are very, very passionate about, and are huge supporters of Simon and Shyburns as well. PMP prints, as we've talked about, lots of different pins and prints of old and new Newcastle United players, old and new strip mix and matchups from years gone by. Some fantastic things there, and obviously all three are fantastic sponsors of the channel, so we really, really appreciate all of your support with regards to that. One or two things coming up on the channel. So we've got our reaction show that's coming up on Sunday evening at 8 o'clock. So get involved in that on Loaded HQ. And obviously a big show coming up, I think, is on the 18th. I apologise if we get the date wrong. But Sean Casey, back fresh from his rested break, will be back on talking all things transfers and all things Newcastle United as we build to the big summer transfer window. Sean's got a lot to say, and I think he's really looking forward to coming onto the show, and we are looking forward to having him. But look, we'll end it there. Everyone switch over. I've kept the link up there. Switch over to Feed the Goat podcast, which is still going live right now, and get your thoughts and feelings on the Newcastle United game. Massive thanks to everyone in the chat. You guys are absolute superstars every week, backing us at Loaded HQ. Massive support. We couldn't do it without you. And Luke, again, massive thanks to you. Great to chat to you. Great knowledge as always. And look, best of luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully you lift the Premier League title, and hopefully we can be in the years to come, we can be battling it out together. But we'll definitely be back on next season talking all things Man City, Newcastle. So I'll be in touch and we'll sort something out.
That sounds brilliant to me. But yeah, all I'll say is thank you very much for having me on. Really grateful that we can do things like this, and it's always great to be on other channels and kind of get City out there, and obviously our channel out there as well. And you're doing a great thing here, obviously seeing that for the mental health stuff, that's brilliant. And yeah, hopefully more collaborations in the future. And you know, if there's ever a time you want to come on Feed the Goat, just let us know and we can definitely get that on there. Who knows? Might even be Monday night if you're free, and we can certainly find out about the result for Sunday night. But yeah, again, thank you for having me on. Thank you for all the nice comments, and yeah, great to interact with you all. And yeah, may the best team win on Sunday. Hopefully, it's a blue team, but you know, like I said at the start, I've always had a little soft spot for Newcastle. So yeah, all the best.
Brilliant stuff. Luke, you take care. Chatters, you take care. And as always, we do love playing away. Have a good one and have a fantastic weekend. Take care. Speak to you soon.